Alrighty, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to video 2 on our series on administration and administrative sup. Well, according to the video that's in the way, it's sup, but it's support, right? So there you go. All right, see what it's S-U-P-P, sup, right? Now, really, there's a video behind there, all right? Mr. C's bad. All right, now, these jobs that you're going to see and read about here, right? They really have to do with various areas of a business, right? Now, in the previous video, we learned that a business might choose to call its executive and its managers and the people that run the business the administrators, right? Or they might choose to call them something else. It's up to the business. But these jobs also relate to government style positions or government organizations or entities, right? So these jobs here don't require usually to have a degree. Oops, Mr. C's hiccup, my bad, all right? Usually don't require for someone to have a degree, right? And what I've done here is I put the job itself in which area of a business it might fall in, right? So we learned about an accounting, right? We learned about accounting and we looked at what accountants might do and we kind of talked about the accounting process as a whole, okay? But we didn't really get into the individual jobs. So you can see here that a collector is overseen by the accounting area, right? Bill and accounts collector, right? That's what they officially do, right? They recover payments in overdue bills, or they may negotiate repayment plans with people who are in debt, debtors, to find solutions, okay? So that is a and that was a very common job that was out there. Mr. C worked in that for a brief moment, all right? Where I had to call people who were past due on accounts, make the call, hey, you're behind on your payments. What can we do to get you caught up? Okay, you bring the payment in which day or send it to us which day? Fantastic. Would you like me to use your credit card and base that, or would you like me to get an automatic check? That sort of thing, all right? So yeah, that would be my responsibility, okay? And so that's what they do. Now, did I have to have a degree for that job? No. Did I have a degree for that job? Yes, all right? So it is what it is, right? Just because it doesn't say you have a degree, I'm just going to rephrase that. Just because the account doesn't require a degree doesn't mean you can't work that job if you have one, if that makes any sense. All right? All right. So another job that would follow under no degree required would be bookkeeping. All right? Now, bookkeeping is usually under accounting. And they call it books, not because it's like a book, like a library book. Okay, that's what a librarian does. But this is usually doing with financial books, financial records, daily books, daily records. Okay? So usually, the accounts are put into multiple documents and they fill up like a book. Okay, that's why they call it bookkeeping. Okay, so it's also under the accounting department, and they produce financial statements and records for organizations by recording and updating records. In other words, if I'm at the tax collector and I go to pay the taxes on my property, right, the person at the front desk, the clerk, would take that tax transaction, right? The bookkeeper would take a physical copy of that and then put that on file, right, or scan it. Okay, one or the other, right? Let's see here. Customer service, believe it or not. Customer service is usually handled by marketing and sales. In other words, the marketing department or the sales department, right? And customer service processes orders, provides information, and handles customer complaints, right? So technically, a salesperson is in the customer service business, right? Just like at a restaurant, you're in the service industry, okay? Or at a hotel, you're in the service industry, okay? So, they usually overseen by marketing and sales, financial clerks. You could also see what goes on there, and office clerks. Now, here's a cool thing, right? You'll see office clerk here, but later on, you might see like secretary and administrative assistant, right? You might have to look up what the difference is for that, right? Now, thinking about here on our campus, right? Customer service. We do have a person in customer service, okay? One, Mr. Cooper is in customer service because technically, right, we're in the service of getting the next generation ready to work, right? Getting the next generation ready to serve the community, okay? So we're serving civilization in the local community, okay? And then even at our front counter, whoever deals with the person currently working at the front counter will be considered customer service because they're directing, maybe even indirectly handling complaints, so on and so forth. Okay, so there you go. Let's see here. Office clerk might be a little bit different than office secretary, which is different than administrative assistant, and we'll talk about that. All right, next one, information clerk. You can see right there. I'm not going to read every single one of these, so I'm just going to pick and choose a few of these here. Essentially, just throw some darts on the board here. All right. Let's see here. Information clerk. Again, just like customer service, they provide perform duties such as maintaining records, collecting data, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Materials clerk. Person who receives stuff, right, would technically be a materials clerk. Example, when the food comes in here to the campus, right, somebody has to check the food in. They have to go through and check the dates, so on and so forth, right? That would be like a materials handling clerk, right? They might have a different name for it, but that's essentially what they're doing, okay? And they're also doing that for accounting practices as well to make sure that what was ordered has been fulfilled, okay? You also have civil dispatchers. Now, civil dispatchers work for like 911 operators, public safety, so on and so forth. So these guys are going to be employed by the police department, the fire department, medical services, emergency and non-emergency medical services, right? They're basically dispatching where needed as warranted, right? To be a 911 operator, you got to have that degree, right? You got postal service worker, secretary and administrative assistant. Okay, so here's the deal. All right, so an administrative assistant and secretary kind of sort of do the same thing, okay? So look what the definition says here. Routine clerical and administrative duties. They draft messages, schedule appointments, and support staff. Pretty easy, right? And in fact, our administrative assistant here, or our secretary here on campus, right, will perform the duties as requested by the principal, all right? So maybe you could schedule with that person, and that person controls the schedule, or maybe starts drafting messages, etc., that the, as needed or warranted, or maybe has a pool of documents that they can pull from, okay, to as templates, essentially, right? Now, a secretary works like that, right? Now, depending on the size of the business, a secretary may not have as much pull or authority as, say, an administrative assistant, because the administrative assistant is working directly with the administrator or the CEO or the president, so on and so forth. They call it administrative assistants, right? And they usually have a little bit more authority. Now, I highly recommend Googling and just finding out through various different resources what the difference is between a secretary and administrative assistant, okay? So Google that. Do a search on that. I think you'll find it very beneficial, all right? You can see what a teller is. And then, of course, this slide here only focuses really on schools, okay? But you'll see that there's other areas as well. Okay, so for schools, administration, administrative support, right? High school diploma, you got crossing guards, dining room, cafeteria attendants, other careers, right? Janitors, maintenance, so on and so forth, okay? Then you have some technical training. Okay, you can see what's going on there, some technical training. And then you have your 2-year degree. You got executive secretaries, interpreters, translators, so on and so forth. Bachelor's degrees, you can work as teachers, so on and so forth. Doesn't say that here because we're just talking about administration and administrative support. But basically with master's degrees and advanced degrees, you got distance learning coordinators, college education administrators, administrative service managers, so on and so forth, right? Not listed are principals, paraprofessionals, teachers, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's kind of how it works here, right? Every teacher must have at least this. Some teachers have this, or some teachers have at least a master's degree or a doctorate, right? But most teachers have a bachelor's degree, okay? Most paraprofessionals here on campus have the 1 to 3 year, or basically it's a 2-year associate's degree, okay? And then the people in the various spots in the front office might have these applying for them, all right? So that's basically how it works. All right, so there we go. All right, that brings us to part 2. It says no NDR, no degree required. All right, so you have this part here. It says no degree required. You can list those things there. Where it says ask Google, don't ask that question directly because you may not find the answer. Figure out a way to word it and then ask the question, okay? And then there is a part 2, no degree required, okay? Pretty simple there, all righty? So that brings us to the end. That's it. We're done. Last official lesson video for my 7th grade students for this year. So there you go. Congratulations. We are done. All right, guys, I hope you learned something. I hope you took something awesome away from my class. And if you're watching this on the internet and just stumbled across me, I hope you learned something too. All righty? Have a great one. Enjoy it. And then if anybody asks you, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.